Hey everybody, Douglas Blair Roberts here, the Super Vader 400, back for another review, and this time, actually back for two reviews. This is my full-length spoiler review of both the 2015 film Ant-Man and of course its sequel, follow-up Ant-Man and the Wasp, which came out July of this year. I saw both of these movies when they released, and I even did the Ant-Man, the 2015 Ant-Man film is included in my larger Marvel Cinematic Universe review, and I did a non-spoiler review of its sequel, Ant-Man and the Wasp, back when I saw it in July. Been meaning to do a full and spoiler version, but I badly wanted to include the 2015 version, so I decided to do both movies. I actually meant to watch and review the 2015 version as a setup to the sequel, Ant-Man and the Wasp, but sorry about that. I was too lazy and too preoccupied with other things, multitasking basically. But finally, this video is right here. And before I start, these are some of my favorite films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe anthology, and both films are awesome, with Ant-Man and the Wasp being bigger, badder, and better than the first film. I was more excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp than I was the Avengers Infinity War, which of course, as I keep saying, was and still is the biggest box office spectacle to hit cinemas this year. But I was more excited for this film, and I enjoyed this film much more. I thought screenplay wise, which was the biggest weakness to Infinity War, was one of the best things about this movie. And I like how this movie was happening at the same time. Well, like I said, that's what the second part of this review, the narration portion of this review, was for. With that being said, let's hit my music and let's get this started right now. Hey everybody, the Super Vader 400 here, Douglas Blair Roberts here. Time for part 2 of my Ant-Man trilogy review. Of course, I'm going to start off with the 2015 Ant-Man. I'm going to talk about the storyline, characters, and relation to the source material. Then I'm going to finish with other news and notes about the film, Then, of course, I'm going to move on to the sequel, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Before I start, back in prior to seeing the very first Ant-Man film back in July of 2015, shortly after it released, um, I didn't care about the Ant-Man, Hank Pym, and the Wasp characters. I never really cared much for them individually. I liked them as supporting characters as part of the Avengers and the various Avengers comic books and cartoons, but I never cared for them individually. After seeing the 2015 Ant-Man film, I am now a super Ant-Man film fan. I consider the Ant-Man movies to be some of the best of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and some of the most underrated in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because they don't get the same attention as other films like Iron Man, Captain America: Civil War, The Avengers, or even Thor get. They don't get the same attention as those. Another reason I like both of these movies is because both of these movies are what I like to call real old school comic book films in comparison to the other Marvel Cinematic Universe entries. Both of these films play out like a 1960s, 70s, 90s comic book with over the top gimmicky heroes and over the top gimmicky villains like the Yellow Jacket, and they managed to make a film about ants, not only good and entertaining but complex. There's several things about these films that I still just don't understand. Which brings me to the only thing I don't like about this film is I still do not understand. I know this is the comic book world, so anything is possible, but I still don't understand how shrinking a suit causes someone to enter a alternate realm, which of course is the quantum realm in this universe. In this universe, I still do not understand that. What kind of science is that? I was never good at science, but I know science was not like that. So yeah, I also like both of these movies because I don't think this was the intention when they were developing this movie, and these characters came out way before before any of these two characters came out. I also like this film because it reminds me of the Mega Man video game franchise, and it also reminds me of the very popular Japanese superhero Ultra Man, like Ultraman, Ant-Man, which he debuted in Civil War, and it's in the sequel. He can not only can he shrink, but he can turn really big, become Giant Man, as they call it in the comic books. So yeah, that's another reason I like Ant-Man. Ant-Man. So with that being said, let's get started with the 2015 film. Like I said, um, I went into the film with respectable expectations. I didn't expect anything good, but I knew this film wasn't gonna be bad. It was at least gonna be decent. It was at least gonna be decent. The film completely exceeded my expectations, and much to my surprise, I consider it one of the best films of 2015, and was on par with Avengers: Age of Ultron, one of the best movies of that year. Of that year. And after seeing this film, like I said, I became a super fan of Ant-Man from beginning to end. This film was awesome. This film was funnier than Guardians of the Galaxy, which of course Guardians of the Galaxy is known as the big comedy film of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I thought Guardians of the Galaxy, while funny, was kind of childish. I thought this right here was much better. I laughed harder at this film. I came to this film to see Ant-Man, Yellow Jacket, Hank Pym, but Lewis and his crew, with one of the members, Tip, being portrayed by rapper T.I., they stole the show in this film. Even though I came to see Ant-Man in the Yellow Jacket, they stole the show. Their humor, I was dying. I was dying in the theater, laughing, listening to these guys, and watching these guys interact with each other. Now let's go back. Let's go to the story. And the story starts off in 1989. Hank Pym leaves Shield after he sees that they're trying to replicate his technology. He plans to protect and hide it as long as he lives. In the present day, Hank Pym has been forced out of his own company, Pym Technologies, um, by his estranged daughter Hope Van Dyne and his former protege Daryl Cross, who have come close to perfecting the Pym technology with another costume called the Yellow Jacket. The Yellow Jacket. Um, this storyline brings us into contact with the main protagonist, Scott Lang's storyline, who of course is the second Ant-Man in the comics, with Hank Pym being the first. Hank Pym manipulates Scott Lang through Lewis and tricks him into stealing into stealing the Ant-Man suit, seeing that it's a costume and seeing that it's a costume, seeing that Scott Lang decides to abort the mission, but gets arrested anyway. And then there he is visited by Hank Pym, who gives him an ultimatum and a chance at redemption, because Scott Lang is an ex-con, just been released from prison, and is behind on child support, and really wants to be a hero to his daughter, who he really wants to be the hero his daughter thinks he is. So he gives him a ultimatum: sit here in jail or accept this shot at redemption, and bails him out of jail and begins training him to use the Ant-Man suit to communicate and command the ants for one big mission, and that of course is to steal the Yellow Jacket suit from Pym Technologies, from Daryl Cross of Pym Technologies. Yeah, that's the plot. Much to the dismay of his daughter, Hope Van Dyne, who was in a strange relationship with his father, because her father, of course, according to the storyline, when her mother supposedly died, sent her to boarding school, and they haven't communicated much since. Hope Van Dyne believes she should pilot the Ant-Man. She should wear the Ant-Man costume. That Scott Lang is a criminal. The Hank Pym angrily refuses, and after counseling from Scott Lang, agrees to let Hope Van Dyne agrees to help Hank Pym train Scott Lang in using the Ant-Man costume. And the Ant-Man, he goes on his first mission, which is to steal some tech from the Avengers headquarters to aid him on his heist in stealing the Yellow Jacket suit from Pym Technologies. He runs into the Avenger Falcon in one of my favorite and most memorable fight scenes from this film. Falcon detects him despite his shrinking technology, and the two do battle in an awesome awesome fight. He gets inside and gets what he needs. Daryl Cross then prepares to sell the Ant-Man suits to Hydra. There, Lang, Pym, and Van Dyne infiltrate Pym Technologies, and with the aid of Lewis and his crew too, infiltrate Pym Technologies, and Pym Tech and Scott Lang shrinks Pym Technologies and sends it to the quantum realm. Now, Daryl Cross, angry that he lost his business, dons the Yellow Jacket suit, and his revenge goes after Scott Lang's daughter, Cassie, and Scott Lang confronts him in the ultimate battle. After seeing his heroism and what he did, Bill Paxton, the fiance of Scott Lang's former wife, instead of arresting him, which he's been trying to do the whole film for being behind on his child support payments, decides to cover for him, and the film ends with Hank Pym. The film ends with Scott Lang staying at Hank Pym's place, and Scott Lang, after defeating defeating Daryl Cross by causing his suit to shrink uncontrollably, seemingly killing him, Scott Lang goes to the quantum realm. Goes to the quantum realm and managed to reverse the effects of the quantum realm, and is here, which sets up one of the main plots of Ant-Man 2. The Ant-Man 2, Scott Lang, Hank Pym, um, comes to the conclusion that his wife, who was thought to have died in a missile crisis years ago, that she may still be alive in the quantum realm. They also set up Captain America: Civil War with Falcon talking about recruiting Lang to his team in the upcoming Accords storyline for Civil War, which came right after this movie. Yeah, and in another post credit scene, Hank Pym shows Hope Van Dyne the suit, the Wasp suit. Yeah, great old school sci-fi comedy action sci-fi comedy with action adventure overtones type movie. Like I said, the film, it ain't while getting positive reviews, it didn't get much attention back in 2015, and it didn't take as much at the box office as some of the other big budgeted MCU movies. But I consider it one of the best and one of the most criminally underrated. Now, let's talk about how much this film relates to the source material. This film is completely different from the source material. First off, Hank Pym is the first Ant-Man, which that was established in this film. He was Ant-Man for a long time. He couldn't wear the suit anymore, but he was Ant-Man a long time before Scott Lang, and he was a founding member of the original Avengers team in 1963. Hope Van Dyne, one interesting thing about her is that she, in the comic book, she's a villain, whereas in this series she's not only Hank Pym's daughter, but a heroic character. They got some parts of her right, with her being close to Daryl Cross. And normally I would criticize films like this for being completely different from their comic books, but this is one of the many times where the comic book version was just as good, or sometimes, in my opinion, especially in this case, was better than its source material. I like this version of Ant-Man better, better. So I don't criticize. So I don't so I'm not going to criticize this movie for being vastly different. And um Daryl Cross, he's another character. He's another character in the Ant-Man series. He's another character in the Ant-Man series. He's not the Yellow Jacket, but since this film was so popular, they made him the Yellow Jacket. I keep forgetting his other gimmick. I can look it up right here. Hold on. Hold on, I'm looking it up right now. Yeah. But yeah, I can't. I don't remember it. I don't remember of. I don't remember the what he what the gimmick was, but yeah, he has completely different gimmick in the comic book. Completely different gimmick with different abilities in the comic book. And Hope Van Dyne, I forgot to mention her. Not only is she a villain in the comic book, she's Red Ghost in the comic book. So yeah, um, yeah. So that was the very first Ant Man. That was the very first Ant Man film. Now it's time for its sequel, Ant Man and the Wasp. This movie right here was bigger, better, and even badder than the first film. Everything that was awesome in the first film was multiplied in this film. More action, more action. The characters in this film are in better positions than they were in the previous films, and um and we get a stronger, more powerful stronger, more powerful villain, and actually we get two villains with multiple storylines, multiple subplots that all come together to form one giant story. And I also like how this film was taking place the exact same time as Avengers Infinity War. So while Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, and the Guardians of the Galaxy were on Titan fighting Thanos, and while Captain America and the rest of the Avengers were Steve Rogers and the rest of the Avengers were in Wakanda fighting Thanos' army, and then eventually Thanos himself, Thanos himself. This was happening on Earth in New York. This was happening as this was happening at the same time. When I first saw this film, the only thing I didn't like about this film was the ending. The ending, of course, the ending. This is a spoiler for those of you who haven't seen it. The ending has Hank, Hank, Hope, and Janet, the wife, the original Wasp, being wiped out by the Thanos snap, leaving Scott Lang trapped in the quantum realm. I wanted these guys to be the only survivors and would aid the Avengers in part four against in the all out battle against Thanos. But I heard that the quantum realm, which is where Lang is currently, he's trapped in the quantum realm, that will have a big influence on part four of the Avengers part four coming next year. But yeah, so that right there angered me. But now I'm less angry now that I understand that this film was happening at the same time as Infinity War, not after Infinity War, which I thought this was happening. This is what happened after Infinity War, because it's mentioned in Infinity War that Scott Lang is on house arrest. So is Hawkeye, Clint Barton. So yeah, awesome film here. There are multiple plots. Start Let's start off with Hank Pym's story. Hank Pym's Scott Lang and Scott Lang is under house arrest for violating the Accords and going to Germany with Captain America. And since it was Hank Pym's technology, he violated the Accords too. So him and Hope and Dime have lost their house and are on the run. All they have is their lab, which they can shrink anywhere. All they have is their lab and research. And Hank Pym had decided that comes to the conclusion that his wife could still be alive after seeing Scott Lang reverse the effects of the quantum realm in the previous film. Then Scott Lang randomly has a dream of Janet Van Dyne, the mother of Hope Van Dyne and the wife of Hank Pym. Has a dream of her involving a staircase, and then Hope Van Dyne kidnaps Lang, and uses ant to replicate all of Scott Lang's movements until he gets back, and Scott Lang and Hank Pym decides to Hank Pym builds a machine that can send them to the quantum realm, in hopes that they would find Janet Van Dyne. To do this, this brings up one of the subplots. To do this, they need technology from Sonny Burch, the secondary and main antagonist of the film. Sonny Burch immediately figures out Hope Van Dyne is not who she says she is, and refuses to take her money, and refuses to give her the part she needs, and decides to take her money and the lab so he can sell it on the black market. Hope Van Dyne refuses and transforms into the Wasp, suits, and beats up Sonny Burch's men. Before she prepares to leave. Ava Star Ghost, the first and other main antagonist of the film, engages the Wasp in hand-to-hand combat and gets the best of her, forcing Scott Lang to become to wear a prototypical Ant-Man suit with shrinking problems and interfere and even the score up for Hope and um and 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 help her escape. While that's happening, Ghost manages Ghost manages to Ghost manages to um Ghost manages to put her fist through phasing, put her fist through manages to strangle Hank Pym by putting her fist through his neck, putting her fist through his neck, and steals the lab now, steals the lab in hopes that it would cure her. And later we see her story of how she was how in an accident in an accident involving her father, she accidentally got injured. She accidentally got injured and gained the power to became a ghost, gained the power to phase through anything. But if she completely vanishes, she will die. She was adopted by Shield, who promised to find her a cure. They used her as a weapon, putting her on several Black Ops missions, but refused to hold up their end of the bargain. So she was taken in by Lawrence Fishburne's character, Goliath, Hank Pym, Hope, and Lang see in the film about information on the lab and the um, quantum realm and the parts that they um, that they need. They need the lab. What's his name? So Scott Lang reveals to Hank Pym that he didn't destroy his Ant-Man suit, and that his Ant-Man suit and that his Ant-Man, that the real Ant-Man suit he gave to Cassie as a present so she could show to her friends as part of show and tell. And they used the suit. They used the suit to go to the school. To go to the school, they used the suit to go to the school where it is and narrowly obtain and reobtain the Ant-Man costume so they can find the old lab. In another subplot, Lewis and his gang from the first film are now working as securities. This was one of the things I like. I like how in this film they're no longer criminals. They're actually trying to have real jobs in this movie versus what they were doing in the last um, movie. They're giving more to do in this film than they were in the last film. And and um and they get captured by Lawrence Fishburne. They get captured by Goliath, Lawrence Fishburne's character, and Ghost, and they say they're gonna force Hank Pym to find a cure for Ghost. Um, Hank Pym manages to get home before his parents and daughter get home, for his parents and daughter get home, and before Agent Wu, one of the cops chasing him, main cop chasing him throughout the film, gets there, but at a cost. Hank Pym, Hank Pym, and Hank Pym and Hope Van Dyne are captured by the FBI. Are captured by the FBI, and Scott Lang dons the Ant-Man costume one more time to free them and sneak them out of police custody. They track down the lab. Hank Pym puts on an old suit to go into the quantum realm to retrieve Janet, and while having Lang and Hope Van Dyne guard the machine and lab while he does that after stealing the lab back from Sonny Birch. Scott Lang uses the prototype suit. To throw off Jimmy Woo and goes back home and has it as if he never left. While while Ghost Ghost confronts Pym, Hope Van Dyne, and Janet Van Dyne. Janet Van Dyne, after she is back from the quantum realm, says she can restore Ghost back to normal, and the film ends there with the post-credit scene being the scene I talked about with on the film ends there with Lang being released from house arrest and Lewis and the gang getting new jobs as security people for their heroism in capturing Sonny Burch and his men. And of course, the post-credit scene, of course, had Scott Lang. Had the post-credit scene had Scott Lang in the quantum realm, and with Hope, Janet, and Hank disappearing as a result of the Thanos snap, leaving Scott Lang trapped in the quantum realm, and then everyone, including the news people, are disintegrated as the result of Thanos's finger snap. So the movie is there. Like I said, awesome film. How does this relate to the source material? This is closer to the source material, but still vastly different. For one, the character Ghost in the comic books is a male. In this film, she's a female. Um, she's a female. And yeah, that's the only thing. This one is much closer to the comic books than this one is much closer to the comic books than the first one was. They even have Lawrence Fishburne as Goliath in this comic book. Now they didn't announce an Ant-Man 3, but they did announce that they were working on a prequel. I'll watch that if it's good, but I'm not really interested in that at the moment. I want to see more adventures of Lang, Hope, and Hank Pym. I want to see more adventures with them, and I'm really interested in their involvement in Infinity War, because all of these characters are supposed to be not Infinity War, but Avengers Part 4 next year. So yeah, that was Ant-Man and the Wasp. I thought this film was even better. I enjoyed this film even better than the Avengers Infinity War film, the biggest box office spectacle of this year. This film, in my opinion, was much better. They had a much better screenplay, and I like how both of these movies were happening at the same time. Well, this was my review of both of the Ant-Man films. I'm gonna be doing a 2 individual video narration reviews with me watching the movie with you guys as I review it in the future. Right now, I'm done. Let's hit my music. Doesn't matter who's gonna lose, right?